What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy BrianDaddy with another video. And today we're going to be talking about good old Ashes of Creation. Alright. So I don't really have a script for this. I know I haven't made a video in a really long time. But I'm just going to kind of go off the cuff and kind of like what I've been feeling and seeing so far. That some things I feel, at least from what I can see, I've watched a lot of Ashes of Creation content lately, and I haven't seen other creators talking about, so I wanted to get my little 2 cents in. There has been a lot of drama and negativity towards Ashes of Creation, I would say, for about the past 6 months, pretty much the entire year. It hasn't been fantastic. I'm not going to really be moving around or doing much in the game because I don't want to have my keyboard make a bunch of noise in the recording, so. But it looks like it's nighttime. We're just sitting here chilling. And as you can tell, I really haven't been active in making videos, and I haven't been active in playing the game. I've tried. I've logged on quite a bit, played a little bit, tested some things, given feedback, reported bugs. I've done exactly, kind of like what's expected of a testing environment. And, that is my expectation going into it. And I will say, a lot of the drama and feedback that's been given has been around, the perspective of people, thinking it's a complete game or whatnot. And they've been very transparent, Intrepid Studios is they've been very transparent in saying that it's a test, you're playing to test the game, and all of that good jazz. But there are very key things and valid points that people have made about certain aspects that are quite interesting to dive into. And so I kind of wanted to talk about just the overall everything about the game. And I know I'm being long-winded here. I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't have a script. I'm just going to kind of yap and hope you guys enjoy it. Recently, there was a video actually dropped by a content creator called Sawman UK right here. And he said, his title is, I played a scam game for 100 hours. I watched the whole video, and I will say, he made some very valid points and valid arguments as to what's good and what isn't. You can go and watch his video if you want to see his perspective on it, but I agree with a lot of the things he said. I think he had very good takes, and oh, look at that. Daytime, just like that. Boom. And, I don't know, man. It's tough, right? There are so many things that we don't know internally that's going on in Intrepid. But the number one thing that I think has had a negative effect on the game has been ever since 2021, when Jeffrey Bard left the company and went to go work at another studio. I believe he's working at a VR company. They're making VR games, and he's the game director there. And I think him being with Intrepid from like kind of the very start and like being the game director was a good balance for Steven to have, because I think when you have your creative director and your game director be the same person, it has pros and cons, Some of the pros are like, you can have a unified vision, right? There's no risk of you like coming up with cool designs and then production being like, if it's the same person, you can come up with cool designs and also have the timetable for them. It keeps the studio figurehead, one person, right? And there's faster decision making. There's no debates when it comes to it, right? But in terms of cons, I think it can have a serious, time balance issue where one person is covering high level, creative design and also the day-to-day production. And I don't think it's good for Steven to be doing both of those positions. He can also have a bias towards, his vision over the scope, right? So you can have the risk of having feature creep or longer timelines or ballooning budgets, which that's been a very hot topic as of late, right? This game has been in production since 2017, It had its Alpha 0 in December of 2017. It is currently October of 2025. I'm just letting that sit for a minute, okay? That is a very, and one thing people have to understand is, yes, making an MMO is one of the most hardest things to do. He has said that many times, and I totally understand and get that, but working on a game for 8 years and with how much you guys have put into it, if you look at it nowadays, there's a lot, right? This whole sand biome, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. I think that's 26 encampments, right? So, I can't remember. How many is there supposed to be at launch? Like 80, right? Something like that. And there's a lot of areas in the game you can go to that look absolutely fantastic and amazing, but there's areas you can go to that look absolutely horrendous, which is another reason why there was a lot of drama with that Narc video, right? A lot of drama around the whole Narc situation and him kind of misrepresenting what was in the game. And again, there's good points and bad points made by Narc. Just bad. Anyways, going back to it, when you have your creative director and your game director the same person, like I said, it's going to make the timelines and the budget balloon, which is exactly what's happening. A lot of people, and Stephen Sharif, we always talk about the budget, right? A lot of people just bring up ballooning numbers that don't make any sense. And I think when you actually do the math and you get into it, you can kind of figure it out, right? The Kickstarter raised, what was the exact number? Let me find it. It was about 3 million. It was just over 3 million. It was like 3.3 million. Yeah, 3.2 million. Okay. And Steven has mentioned in past broadcasts or interviews that he put in $55 million. And that interview was with Asmongold when he was talking about the Narc drama. Okay. Now, just between the Kickstarter and Steven, that's $58 million. And you can do some breakdowns of your own and try and figure out. They've also said that there were about 150,000 total people that bought access to Alpha 1 and Alpha 2.
Are what we're right now testing with over 130,000 people within the Alpha 2 testing environment.
Okay. Now, you can, like I said, you can do some math and you can figure out how much money did those people spend. I did some pretty generous estimates. And basically came to the conclusion that, if you use the Pareto principle of 80-20, would basically mean that out of those 150,000 people, 20% of them would be a high spender, meaning they would spend more than what is the normal amount, right? And because there's been so many packages with cosmetics, I know you can see, trust me, do as I say, not as I do. I've been a clown who's bought cosmetics as well. Look at, I got this little, whatever it's called, little fox, right? But I wanted to support the game, and I believed in their vision, and I still do to a degree. But I am very skeptical at this point, right? Now, going back to what I was saying, say you have about 20% as high spenders, that would be out of that 150,000 people estimate. Now, I could be very generously large with that or very generously short with that. But I think that 150 is pretty close to how many people have paid for access to the alpha. It could be around 100, could be around 150, but I'm guessing I'm pretty close there. So if 20% would be 30,000 people, let's say that they spent about, you know, 1,500, 2,000 a piece. That would mean that they went into the shop, the old shop that Ashes of Creation has. I'm pretty sure they still have it. Let me see. They go into the shop, and they purchased access, but there were also cosmetics as well. But they got rid of all the cosmetics, right? So let's just say, for example, those 30,000 people spent $2,000, and the other 120 spent, you know, the normal $120 to get access to the Kickstarter there, right? Or not the Kickstarter, sorry, the alpha. So if you add all those together, with the 30,000 being $2,000 and the 120,000 being about $120, it would get you to about $74 million, $75 million. Okay, and then we add the Kickstarter and the Stephen Sharif funding, and you come out to about an estimate of about $132 million. Okay, and that's just, like I said, it's a rough estimate I've come up with ever since, you know, the launch. That's adding all the Kickstarter, that's adding all the packages that got purchased with cosmetics, and that's adding all the Alpha 2 access over the past couple years. That would mean that they are still have money, but they're getting low. Okay. So if that is the case, if my estimates are pretty close and correct, that would mean that the cumulative costs that they have spent, again, I'm guessing about 132 million is what's funded, and an estimated cost of about 118 million ever since they've started. That leaves them with a surplus at the end of 2025 of about $14 million. Again, I'm putting an asterisk here. These are all estimates. Just like they say, they're in an alpha. They aren't finished. I'm just estimating. So that means by the end of the year, they're going to be pretty low on money by the time they get about to the halfway point of next year. Which means either A, Steven is going to have to put up more money, which is what he said he would do, is that he would be fronting the cost of this whole entire endeavor after the Kickstarter, or the beta will have to be launched, and they will need to sell beta keys. They will need to sell more access to the game to get people in and playing, and to also fund the project. Again, I'm just, like I said, off the cuff, just talking. That has been one of the major controversies, is that I could be wildly low on my estimates. They could have made a lot more money, right? Or I could be wildly overestimating. I think I'm pretty close. I would say within the margin of error of about 10%. And man, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just going through it all in my head. Jeffrey Bard left, and Stephen Sharif became the creative director and the game director. I think ever since that's happened, there has been a lot of changes to Intrepid Studios that has been negatively affected, right? You can look here. This is straight off the Ashes of Creation Wiki. This is how long the game has been in development, since 2017. I know Jeffrey Bard left in 2021. I don't know exactly when, but it was pretty early in 2021. probably right around this time. But you can see a lot of their deadlines with the APOC was about, you know, they were hitting them quickly, fast, right? Alpha 1 early preview, March 2020, or March 2020. In May, they did testing, just a few months later, and then a pre-test, and another pre-test. They were hitting, you know, I would say from May to December is kind of a long, you know, wait time for that, but I feel their timelines they were hitting. I think what happened is Jeffrey had a passion for this project, being, you know, he's even friends with some of the EverQuest guys that are working on Ashes right now, right? And I think he's seen that his direction of the entire studio was basically being undermined by Steven Sharif being the creative director and, you know, of the studio, being the head, right? So I think, obviously I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but if I had to guess, he probably felt that him and Steven were butting heads too often, and that it would be best if he just moved on because the project isn't going to align with what he thinks is going to work. So this is this is the good and bad thing about not having a publisher for your video game, right? Everyone deems publishers as the end all be all demon. Oh, if we just gave them more time to finish this game, if we just gave them more time to finish this game, it'll be good. It'll be good. I mean, look at Grand Theft Auto 6, right? That's a completely different scenario because I'm talking about $1 billion game that's going to be the most popular game ever released. But they've been working on that game for like 15, 16 years, and they have a publisher in Rockstar. But they're also their own developer, right? So I think it's good to have timetables for when you want to release things, but you need to be pretty close, right? If you are going to delay things, you need to make it. The delay needs to be very close to the actual release still, right? Because when you delay something by 6 months, it's just not good, right? It's just not good visually, right? I think. Anyways, I'm getting, like I said, I'm rambling. Those are the things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about that. I don't think anybody's mentioning ever since Jeffrey Bard left that timetables have been an issue, and things being pushed back and delayed have been an issue ever since that time. We can point the finger at, you know, pandemics and things of that nature, but I think just knowing what your team is capable of, the leadership. Leadership is so important at every company, right? Because if you have good leadership, it trickles down, just like we want to do with the economy. It trickles down into everyone on the team. If you're passionate and you have the energy and you have the vision, it makes other people say yes, yes, yes. And I felt that early on in Ashes. We all did. When we watched those early videos, we're like, yes, they have a small, passionate team. Yes, let's do this, right? And I think it has fallen off a lot. And that's obviously, we could say that, you know, like losing key members and having to hire a lot constantly and just not finding enough people to be able to push the game out as quickly as they would like. It is an issue. And yeah, I hope this project succeeds. I hope it does well. I hope to play it before I pass away. I'll see you guys. Alright, I'm back again. Hold on. There's a couple more things I wanted to talk about. Alright, so I already covered just the whole studio and Jeffrey Bard leaving and everything. But there's a couple other things that I wanted to bring up that, in my opinion, are very controversial that many people aren't talking about, right? And that's just the whole Kickstarter in general, right? If you are a player coming into this game much later, which is going to be 99% of the players coming in later, you should be upset at this, right? Because there are a lot of things that a game that touts to not be pay to win, right, that you won't have access to. Like, I'm talking the $25 Explorer option. They will have additional character creation customization options. That right there, and according to estimates as well that I've found, there are almost 20,000 people that backed the Kickstarter. So all of them, does that mean they're going to come out with more character creation options that you won't have access to? And that's another pain point of mine, is the character creator that we have that was, you know, brought to us years ago, shown to us years ago, is nowhere near the level of BDO that was told to us, right? We had this in March of 2022. This character creator shown to us. He said, look, there's sliders.
I know, but I think it's funny that he went crotch, but then...
Right. Showing sculpt options and tattoo options, changing the colors and the sizes, all these things. Let's take a look. So really, this slider of height, it's not really that crazy. Weight. That's a pretty decent size, different size weight you could do. Yeah, okay. Chest. Arms. Legs. So right in their video here, so they got rid of the crotch slider. I mean, if I had BDO installed right now and I showed you BDO to this, you would laugh in the face with these guys. And then again, you can just say, it's an alpha, it's an alpha. But from the video they just showed us, from 3 years ago, this is nowhere near BDO. This is a disgrace. And also, I mean, just little minute details that, like, when I click on eyes, the camera should auto pull into the eyes. Like, this is just simple character creator things. Like, the fact that I have to manually, like, zoom in and I can't even get onto his face. Like, if I click on face, head, bring me to the face, bring me to the head, you know? Holy crap, I'm going off topic. I'm very disappointed with the character creator state that it is currently in. And what was shown to us 3 years ago, nowhere near, like, the BDO level that he says he wants to have on launch. Again, we can say, it's an alpha, it's going to come, this is what you could do. Which is why I said I completely understand players' takes, people's takes on... You can defend the game all you want because you can say it's not live, and then all those arguments, once the game actually goes live, are thrown in the trash. They don't matter, right? Which is why you have to bring up these things now. Like, yes, you told us we were going to get a BDO character creator. Where is it? You told us we were going to get X, Y, and Z. Where are they? Right? You can't show people these videos and features. And when you show them to us, you're only 5% done making them internally. If you're going to show us something when you're like 60, 70% done making it. And then, bam, within a month you could slap it down and show us the whole thing at 80 or 90% complete, right? What was I initially even talking about? I just went out on a tangent. Holy... I was talking about the Kickstarter. And then I got into the character creator. Alright. Yes, if you're one of the 150,000 people that have played the game that aren't the initial 20,000 people that backed it on Kickstarter, you should be upset. I haven't even gotten to the most egregious thing yet. The most egregious thing is that for a MMO, a massively multiplayer online RPG, they have 1 day access, early access to the launch. But wait, there's more. At the $500 level, you have 2 days early access. You'd be like, oh, don't worry, there weren't that many people that probably bought that. But wait, there's more. According to the data, there was at least 3,600 people that bought Founder Access, and almost 3,000 people that bought Braver of Worlds Access. So that means, before you even get to play the game, there's going to be about 6,000 people that are a day or 2 ahead of you. So, and what's the importance of MMORPGs, right? It's all about feeling like you have the fair fight footing. It's a fresh new world, it's cool, everyone's learning, nobody knows nothing. And that is all gone, unfortunately, with Ashes of Creation, because everything's going to be min-maxed and figured out before this game ever launches. And it's so sad. It's one of the things that it does, when a game just drops out of nowhere and is really well done, that is what makes people happy and surprises them, right? And we've had that many times over these past few years now. With Baldur's Gate 3, came out, Game of the Year, absolute fantastic game. I haven't even played it. I only played it for like an hour, but I know when I do fully play through it, I'm going to love that game. And then this year, Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Absolutely fantastic game. Again, I haven't even played it, but I know it's great. These are games that we don't know anything about here in the Western world, and then they just get dropped, and boom. So that's why an open development is fantastic for getting player feedback. It's also bad because everyone knows everything about your game already. There's nothing new, there's no excitement, there's no exploring this brave new world because we're already going to have seen it for years now. And that's honestly probably the thing that makes me so upset the most. And that's why I don't play it that often, right? Because I do want to preserve that feeling I get on a launch day of a new MMO coming into the world and freaking sitting in a queue time and it's lagging and everybody's killing things. And that's what people loved, right? We've had that happen in World of Warcraft. We've had that happen in New World and many other MMOs where the launch is just an absolute... Everybody's playing it. Oh yeah, I want to get involved. Everybody's playing it. Yeah, this is fun. And now there are going to be 6,000 people that have access before you. And when you load into the world and you guys, maybe you hit level 5, level 10 in the first day and you're thinking you're cool, and these dudes are level 35, 40. And they come down and they just gank you. They take all your stuff. How would that feel? On day 1, getting killed by some dude who's level 25, 30, and just absolutely obliterates you on day 1 of a launch. I can already see it that and it sucks. It sucks I'm saying this because I really want this game to be awesome, but the amount of backlash they are going to get for this early access is going to outweigh any good that they make. And they can't pull this access back because 6,000 people will be upset with them because they spent good and earned money on that access. I'm not even going to go over all the other absolute egregious pay-to-win features that are in the Kickstarter backing projects. Like we're talking about, you can say that they're all cosmetics, but for most people nowadays, cosmetics are the end game, right? You've seen it in alpha. I mean, I could probably go find somebody who's they're just decked out in a full-on, armor set and everything. Like I said, I'm egregious. I've spent money too on the shop. Like, I wanted the cosmetics. A lot of the cosmetics look sick, right? But, like, there is no discovery in Ashes. It's all going to be figured out. It's all going to be done. So if you're somebody who's hoping to have that I know nothing in this absolute new world experience, number one, you probably aren't watching my video. And I would say, yeah, I hope there are people out there that find Ashes and know literally nothing about it, and they can just dive into it on day one of launch and not know anything about all this backstory. But like I said, in knowing that you could play on day one of launch and get absolutely obliterated by some guy who decided to pay $500 and you didn't. So have fun, right? All right, one more little thing I found when I'm talking about servers and getting a head start. So I wanted to make sure I was clear. I found this post from Steven on Discord. I don't know how long ago it was. It's probably from like 2020, 2021. But apparently, according to him, it says there will be Head Start servers at launch and non-Head Start servers. So that right there implies that the 6,000 people that will have access to servers will play on Head Start servers. So then, if you are anyone else, you will decide to play on non-Head Start servers. So then, those 6,000 people, if they're smart, I mean, like, it's completely pointless, right? Because what's going to happen is people aren't going to know what are Head Start servers and what aren't, unless if they are labeled that correctly by Intrepid Studios. Okay, because if you're the 99% that don't have access to the Head Start servers, you are going to play on a normal server that launches on day one. Period. That's what you should do. So then, those 5,000 to 6,000 players that are playing on Head Start servers before everyone is completely and utterly pointless, because if nobody's going to launch on your server, you got a head start on a server that nobody's going to play on, except for other people who got a head start. This is, if this is indeed what it comes out, this is so dumb. And again, you could read his whole statement here that it says, during the head start, the node systems will be deactivated. So you can't do anything node-wise, which is level up towns or do anything for that. And he's basically saying that it's a necessary thing to test to make sure there's no bugs that pop up during a live last minute. It says, in order to avoid pay-to-win aspect that it may provide, we will be turning off the node system during that period. Players involved in Head Start will still be able to explore and play the game, but will not be directing the course of development on the server. So in Steven's mind, the only pay-to-win aspect is if you affect the game world. Not your own personal character, but if your character affects the world, then that means you are paying to win. Is what I can get from this perspective. So as I said, if his first line in that statement, there will be Head Start servers at launch and non-Head Start servers. That means if you are anyone, if you're not the 6,000 players that spent $500 or $150, you should be playing on non-Head Start servers. Then that means the 6,000 people that bought it, why would you ever play on that server? Because you're only going to have 5,000 to 6,000 people playing on it, and you all got a head start. And you're going to be playing against, by the way, all of the sweatiest players in the game, because all of you paid and played early. It's going to be a competition, and most of those people are probably all in like guilds and coalitions together. So there's just no point, in my opinion. Now, I guess if that's what you want to see as like a fair way to do it, is the people who bought early are all going to play together, and you're all going to make your own problems. But then if you didn't pay early, then everyone who didn't pay early are going to play together over here. So there's no benefit for paying or not paying. But the benefit is if you don't have the knowledge, because if you're somebody who doesn't know that you're about to launch onto a Head Start server and now you're behind, or if you're somebody who paid to play on a Head Start server but your whole guild is on a non-Head Start server, now you're playing from behind. So there is no benefits here. Just freaking launch everyone at the same time. But you can't, because you already made people pay for it. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I had to add this in here. Alright, one more thing I wanted to talk about. I got this comment here. This is from the Ashes of Creation forums. This guy was responding to somebody who said that he basically didn't want alpha. He didn't want the game to get discovered too much, right? And basically, his response was that he didn't want. MMOs are not about the first 50 to 100 hours of playthrough. It's not about discovering and exploring. He says that's for single player games. The only thing that's important for him in MMOs is endgame loops, communities, and long-term investment and progression. I can agree that all those things are important for MMORPGs, but if you think that the first 50 to 100 hours of an MMO isn't important, you are completely and utterly just disingenuous. Because if I log into an MMO, alright, there's a brand new character. This is somebody who said, and I quote, MMOs are not about the first 50 to 100 hours. This is my initial launch. Oh, lighting bug. Oh, okay, it's a bug, fine. Alright, let's see what it's like talking to our initial NPC.
Portal's got you a bit dizzy, eh? Don't worry about it. New faces are always welcome here in Mount Dun.
I think most players, if this ever was their initial launch experience of any MMO ever made, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, New World, Star Wars, whatever you want to say, Lord of the Rings, if I launched into a game and my initial experience was a crowd background noise and an AI voice actor, they would immediately close the game because they have no idea what the heck is going on. No fucking cutscenes, no anything. I don't even know why I'm here. There's this giant blue gate. We know nothing. Again, people will say, alpha, alpha, early access, alpha, 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 alpha. It's an alpha. It's an alpha. That's why this comment saying that this dumb line, MMOs are not about the first 50 to 100 hours. This dumb freaking line. This is exactly what RPGs are about. Exactly. I would never fully play a game if I walked in and the first guy I talked to was an AI voice actor. I would close the game immediately. And rightfully so. You should. It's completely disingenuous to say that the first 50 to 100 hours of an MMO doesn't matter. It is quite possibly the most important thing in the game. If you don't have a good starting experience at each and every single starter zone, with good cutscenes, good voice acting, and a story building aspect that gets you invested and involved, no one's going to play. Why do you think? Here's an example. New World was actually fantastic when you initially launched in. It like seamlessly puts you into the character creator. It seamlessly had you fight this Captain Thorpe who was corrupted, and you kind of knew, oh, well, all right, I'm landing onto a new world, and I'm fighting this corruption. All right, you got the initial base story of what you were doing immediately upon launching that game. And you can decide, all right, is this for me or is it not, right? So yes, the first 50 to 100 hours is the most important time. Your endgame loops are also important. But if you had to do a pie chart graph of what was important, I guarantee you most developers, creators, and studios would say, oh yeah, your first impression is extremely important. Like quite possibly the most important thing. Because if you hit them with an AI's voice actor at the start of the game, they're going to close the game and not play. So, this is just a little caveat to, I have a feeling people will bring up the argument that early access of the 1 to 2 days doesn't matter because it doesn't matter. They're not going to have any sort of, like, I already brought it up, whatever. Alrighty. Anyways, that was it. I just wanted to add that little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. I really do hope Ashes of Creation comes out. Ideally by the end of 2027. I would say around this time at 2027. That would be cool. But I'm not going to get my hopes up anymore. I stopped getting my hopes up for it. I'm going to continue to hop on probably, once or twice a month just to play it and test some things and submit some bugs. But yeah, I just I hope my perspective changes over the next couple of years of not following it as closely. And I would recommend you do the same if you are feeling discouraged. Just wait. But alrighty, catch you guys in the next one. Peace.